Chairman, thank you. Dr. Cadillac, let me start with you. I want to talk a moment about ventilators. HHS has entered into a number of ventilator contracts, most of which were canceled a week or so ago before they reached their intended, I guess, conclusion. And is there an accounting of how many ventilators, which is troublesome to me because the signals even a week before that was fulfill your responsibilities first to USAID and then come back and finish your contract to us at HHS. And then a week later, the message is, we don't want any more ventilators. And it's interesting to me that the contract requires HHS, the taxpayers, to pay for the startup costs, the closing down costs, and all the equipment and materials that have been purchased. So for a marginal amount of money, the contract could be fulfilled. Setting that aside, what's the accounting on how many ventilators that are high acuity ventilators in the strategic national stockpile? And is there a calculation of by HHS as how many need to be this higher acuity as compared to a more standard ventilator with kind of one dial that you adjust?
Well, thank you, sir, for the question. And yes, sir, we have been looking at our ventilator supply. Just to put this in context, when the COVID-19 event occurred in January, we had 17,000 ventilators in our stockpile with another 10,000 ordered. As a consequence of the modeling and the concern that we may need much more ventilators, by pre-pandemic calculations for pandemic influenza, it was figured or calculated that you needed about 170,000 ventilators. As a course of this event, there was a concern that we may actually need more than that number. And that is when we went into agreements with 7 companies across the country and a few from outside the United States to basically produce over 200,000 ventilators. With that, as things progress, as we learn more about the disease, and more importantly, how to clinically manage this disease, both from a respiratory setting as well as an intensive care setting, we identified we needed to change maybe our strategy with the ventilators, maybe needing less, but also different kinds of machines. And so with your point, the higher acuity kind of ventilators, which we have over 120,000 of at this point, was to basically diversify that so that we could use some that could be used for high flow nasal cannula, which seem to have better clinical outcomes. So adjusting that number with modifications to some of the orders that we made, we basically also identified that we could meet our pandemic requirements of 170,000, make available to other countries additional 20,000 ventilators that we decided to then, if you will, cut back on the number of ventilators that we needed to order and to have shipped. Yes, there is a cost to that, but there is a significant cost on the back end of this with the maintenance requirements that you need to maintain these ventilators. And so that's why we did, sir. I'm the responsible party. And sir, I'll be happy to get with you and your staff to provide you any other details you need.
Doctor, thank you. Let me quickly turn to Admiral Grar. I think the stand that the position the witnesses have taken this morning is that you're incapable of telling us, but would take back these issues for the record. You're incapable of telling us about future spending from the Provider Relief Fund. Let me just suggest to you that please take back for the record that the ability to get information from HHS on any spending from the Provider Relief Fund has been minimal at best. As a United States Senator who appropriates money, who supported the CARES package, my ability to communicate with my constituents as to how you're going to spend the money, what the plan is, has been next to nil. And I've not experienced that during coronavirus with other departments, with other agencies, but HHS has failed time and time again to respond to congressional inquiry and provide us with information about how taxpayer money is being spent, but how to help our constituents prepare for what you might be doing or what you're not going to do. Admiral, in somewhat in that regard, the increasing costs associated with complying with HHS rules and regulations by our nursing homes, our skilled nursing facilities, our senior living facilities, is significant. And my question for HHS, because I would understand that you will defer to somebody else than who's here today to answer the question, is what can they expect to help them pay for the tremendous increase in costs in compliance with COVID regulations, in policies that they are attempting to comply with to protect the safety and well-being of their residents, but have little financial capability to actually pay for?
Thank you for that question. Independent of whatever regulations there are, nursing homes have the responsibility and the ethical responsibility to do the types of testing that we recommended. It's the only way that you protect the elderly. Full stop. Number two, the reason why we've distributed point-of-care tests to the nursing homes is because they're about 20% of the costs that they would incur as opposed to a laboratory test. The Binax test that we're distributing to all those right now, 2 million this week, are at no cost to the nursing homes, and they come with automated reporting. And finally, again, I do defer to SEMA about sending money, but I know $5 billion was sent to nursing homes, of which $2.5 billion was to support testing. That's the level of detail I know, but I'm happy to bring anything back from her or from our Assistant Secretary for Finances to you, sir.
Admiral, I'm using you as a conduit for
Okay.
purposes of expressing my concern and expressing my desire for a lot more information.
Yes, sir.
I would point out that every time that I've raised these issues with HHS, I talk about senior living, nursing home, and skilled nursing facilities, and every response, just as I think yours was, comes back to what we're doing for nursing homes. And again, I can't determine if there's any plan to be helpful, which I think is necessary, for example, to senior living.
So I will bring that back, and we'll take it for the record. I do want to let you know that the moment we had the Binax test, we're sending to 5,000 assisted living centers this week to support testing in an assisted living environment, not a nursing home environment. There's still 6,000 of those or even more that don't have a CLIA waiver that we need to work with, but we're going to work with them as soon as we get the technology, it's out the door to support our seniors.
Admiral, you caused me just to change my commentary slightly. So every time I raise this topic, now you mentioned two of the three topics, and I still would raise for you and for HHS senior living, which never seems to be a component of any conversation that I've had with what few conversations I've been able to have with HHS.
Yes, sir.
You want
Thank you, Senator.
Apparently,
Moran.
my time has expired.
If